There is a lie that we tell ourselves, especially when we have a goal in mind. And we say, when I have the time, I will do it properly. I'm sure a lot of you have said that. Properly meaning perfectly, completely, all in. And because we don't have the time often, or the energy a lot of the time, or the perfect conditions, we end up doing nothing. I have something that I practice in my everyday life to push me along a little bit to actually achieve some of the things that I want to do. And it's called the one task rule. And in this video, I would like to talk about the one task rule, what it means, and how it helps me achieve many of my goals and dreams. Hi, my name is Raina, and this is Small Retired Life. And on my channel, we talk about all things retirement and living our best life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. The one task rule is so simple, it almost feels ridiculous to talk about it. And no, it's not like some glamorous 10-step transformation plan or 30 days to a new you kind of situation. It's a lot simpler than that. Essentially, what it is you just do one thing every day that takes you closer to your goal. Now, in my case, this has shown up in my ongoing attempt to lose some weight. And let me just say, I am not the kind of person who gets up in the morning and says, "Oh, I can't wait to meal prep." And I'm not someone who dreams about doing burpees. And I'm certainly not someone who has ever said, "Oh, you know what I want to do today? I want to have a strict routine." How awesome. But I am someone who wants to feel better and lighter and stronger, more like myself. For the longest time, I approached this goal kind of the way most of us do. It was an all or nothing type of situation. I would think to myself, well, if I can't do a full workout, what's the point? If I'm not eating perfectly today, then I've already ruined it. If I can't commit properly, I'll start on Monday. And Monday, as you know, often comes, and whatever goal, whatever dream we have is kind of put at the back of our brain, and we're in denial, and we just don't think about it. We don't do anything. So here's what I started doing instead. Every single day, I ask myself a simple question. What is the one thing that I can do today that will move me closer to my goal or to my dream? Not 10 things, not a full routine, not a perfect day. Just one thing. What is the one thing that I can do, the one little task that will bring me closer to my goal? Some days that thing is as simple as taking a walk around the block, or drinking more water, or not having that extra snack, or cooking a simple, decent meal, or doing 10 minutes of stretching, or 10 minutes of a workout. And I want to emphasize something really important here. It doesn't have to be impressive. In fact, it's better if it's not. I find the moment it becomes impressive, it becomes something that you end up wanting to avoid, as opposed to something that's just really easy and that you can do. There are days, well, many days, where my one thing is almost embarrassingly small. Like, for example, I stood up and moved around for 5 minutes. But then there are days where I start off with a little task, and all of a sudden it turns into this big task, and it's amazing because I get so much done. But the reason that happened is because I decided to do that one little task. All right, one of the tasks that I do every single day that helps me get to that goal of losing weight is I weigh myself. Every morning after I get up, and after I go to the washroom, I step on the scale and see what the number says. This brings me to the sponsor of my video, Hume. I'm really old-fashioned and I've always used just a regular scale to weigh myself every morning. And essentially, the only information that I would get is how much I weigh. And it was so frustrating. I don't know if any of you can relate to this, especially if you're female, but you get on the scale and that number changes every single day and you don't understand why. You're eating properly, you're doing all of your workouts, you're drinking water, or you think you're drinking water, and the scale is doing all kinds of weird things. But the issue was that that was all the information I was getting, was this number, but I didn't see what else was happening in my body. Enter the Hume Pod. The Hume Pod is essentially a body scan for better health tracking. It helps you understand what is happening in your body on a very holistic level. The Hume Pod is basically a body analyzer that uses 8 different sensors that give you an incredible amount of information about your body and what is going on with your body. It comes with a free app, and in that app, I'm able to set different goals for myself. And then the app allows me to track how I'm doing in comparison to the goals I set by analyzing my entire body composition through weighing myself on the Hume Pod every morning. On the app, I can pull up my body and it gives me different metrics about measurements as far as skeletal muscle mass, lean mass, body fat percentage, my hydration levels. And what's really cool is I can actually kind of do a deeper dive into each of those numbers by clicking on various aspects of the body that is shown on the app. I can also see my metabolic age versus my real age. What I love about this is that I'm actually seeing the whole picture. And so now I know whether I have to tweak my program, whether maybe I have to tweak the amount of calories that I'm taking it. It just provides me with more information. If you're interested in trying out the Hume Pod for yourself, click on my special link in the description below the video and use my code SMALLRETIREDLIFE. My discount code will stack on top of Hume's current sale to save up to 50% off your total. So head on over to Hume and try out the Hume Pod. Thank you to Hume for sponsoring this video. Now, you might think that, oh, hey, doing one little task a day isn't going to accomplish anything. It's not going to move the needle. But the fact is that by focusing on the one task rule, I often find then what happens is that 1% rule comes in where you do that small task, but the next day you're actually willing to do a little bit more. And the day after that, you're doing a little bit more. And it all started with your one task rule. It's that unbreakable rule of I am going to do something no matter how small it is. And then because you do it and you're already doing it, you often think, well, you know what, since I'm already doing it, I'm just going to do a little bit more. Every time you do your one thing, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. Not the person that you wish you were, or not the person that you used to be, but the person that you are right now. You're becoming someone who shows up, even just a little bit every day. And here's where this becomes a little bit magical, because consistency, real consistency, is not built on motivation. It's built on lowering the bar so far you can't step over it without doing something. I mean, let's face it, if your goal for the day is to walk 5 minutes, you not doing it feels so silly because it's just 5 minutes. It is just so doable. Like you can scroll your phone for 40 minutes at a time, but you can't walk for 5 minutes. These tiny little goals, these one tasks that you are doing each and every day are so small that they're silly if we don't do them because it's such a tiny investment of our time. The thing is that often this becomes a little bit more of an investment because you've already taken that effort you've expended the energy to do that tiny little task, so you might as well keep on going. It's just psychology and human nature. When you go out for 5 minutes, suddenly it turns to 10. When you drink more water, suddenly you're also maybe making better food choices. When you commit to stretching, suddenly your body feels a little bit better, and maybe you commit to moving a little bit more or doing some more exercise or lifting some weights. In my opinion, though, none of that happens if you demand perfection from yourself on day one. It only happens when you give yourself the permission to do one tiny thing, but make it a rule that you do that one tiny thing every single day. I think one of the hardest things, especially in retirement, is that we kind of believe we have it all figured out. We think, I have the time, so why am I not doing this properly? And that thought alone is surprisingly heavy and often allows us to avoid doing things because it turns something simple into something with a lot of expectations, and we're tired of expectations by the time we retire. The one task rule removes all of that. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need the perfect day. You just need a moment of willingness, and you need to show up for your one tiny little task. Something I've noticed is when I adopt this approach, it's not just the idea that the weight is going to come off that is a result of the one task rule. It changes my relationship with myself because instead of constantly feeling like I'm failing, I start to feel like I've experienced small daily wins, and that encourages me to do more the next day and the next day and the day after that. When we feel positive about the things that we are doing, we are more likely to do them. When something feels really heavy and really negative, it's common sense that we don't want to do those things. And when we're retired, because we do have more of an autonomy of choice over what our day looks like, if we're not feeling good about something, we tend not to choose it. All of those wins are incredibly powerful because they build trust in ourselves. We start to believe that we can actually get to that goal that we have set out, and that we will show up, and that we will do something every day, and that we won't abandon the project, and we won't abandon ourselves just because we haven't had the perfect day. And this is a much better place to be than the whole drama of starting things and restarting things and then completely abandoning them. I just find when we give up on something too many times because things become onerous, then we do tend to abandon that goal or that dream forever. And then we're constantly berating ourselves as to, well, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? When we keep restarting our tasks because they're too difficult, what happens is we start fresh in the morning and we're all eager to get whatever it is that we want accomplished. And by 2 p.m., because we've missed something or we haven't done it, we have now actually ruined the day. And so that's it. We just can't do this thing anymore. Whereas when you have tiny little tasks, if you don't get them done at 10 a.m., you can do them at 2 p.m. and you can still count that day a win. Never underestimate the power of small things, because small things, small steps is what leads to an outcome, and it often leads to much bigger things. Even though I'm talking about my weight loss here, this rule applies to anything. You want to be a writer? Write a paragraph every day. Write a sentence. Whatever it takes for you to actually write, make that your task for the day. Make that a rule. You want to run a marathon? To run a marathon, you have to run. And so do a little bit every day. Run for 5 minutes. And maybe the next day you run for 5 minutes and you walk for 5 minutes. Take little tiny steps, but do them every single day. You want to declutter? Get rid of one thing. One. Just go right now and get one thing out of a drawer and decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to give it away, or is it old and yucky and you're going to throw it out? Can you recycle it? Just focus on one thing and then do the same procedure the next day. If you do that 5 days in a row, that tiny little step, you would have got rid of 5 things that you didn't want and decluttered 5 things out of your life that were taking up space and taking up energy. I think at this stage of our life, there's something deeply comforting about getting through a task and feeling like we've accomplished something. Because we have that freedom to make our day our own, there is that danger that the day will just float by and next thing you know, you're like, what did I do? Whereas if you have a goal and you have a dream and you want to accomplish it, by having this minute small task and doing it, you are getting a win for that day. You can look back and say, I accomplished this one thing that takes me a little bit closer to my goal of whatever dream it is that you want for yourself or whatever goal you have. Because we're not trying to prove anything here, we're just trying to live well. We're just trying to enjoy our days. Doing one small task can be enough. So if you're a person who is sitting there saying to yourself, I need to get back on track, I need to get back on track, I want to offer you something that maybe is a little bit gentler, and that is, don't get back on track. Instead, just do one thing. Don't think about the track, just think about the one thing you're going to do every day. That's it. And make that one thing small, make it doable, make it almost laughable if you have to, but do it. Then tomorrow, do that thing again. And the day after that, do it again. This doesn't need to be something hard. You do not need to be one of those Instagram people who's doing like air push-ups or something like that. Just do one little task every day, but do it consistently, because I promise you, you will see results because you are showing up and you are doing something. Again, my videos kind of come from a place where I'm at currently. They often come from things I'm thinking about, things I'm pondering, and because I'm on this huge health journey and I'm trying to make a few changes, I've really sat down and tried to brainstorm how I can make that happen. And I have made some progress. And when, for example, when my weight kind of doesn't do anything for a few days, I tend to beat myself up. And it's almost like I want to give up, because I'm like, well, nothing's happening, so why should I keep doing this? It's not working. Instead of doing that, what I have done lately is just get myself back into a frame of mind that says, yeah, but you have done this task today, which gets you closer to your goal. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You have time, you're retired. No one is saying you have to lose like 10 pounds in 2 weeks or something. Just consistently do that one thing every day that advances you towards your goal. So that's kind of my self-talk. So that's it for this week. I will see you all next week at a regular time. Again, I want to thank Hume for sponsoring this video. Bye!